Hey everybody, Justin here from Small World Gaming, and today I wanted to make a video, and I know I'm a little bit late to this game, but it unfortunately took me a little bit longer to get a copy of Kill Team than I would have liked. But I wanted to make a video going over, doing an overview, a little bit of a review, and maybe some strategies and tactics regarding the core manual and the rules of the game. So I know there's a number of other videos already out there kind of doing an overview of the rules, so I'm hoping to do something that's a little bit more in-depth. That we take a look at each individual faction, what they can bring, what those points are, and maybe some ideas for them. And obviously maybe a little bit more look at the missions as well, because I don't think the missions have been covered very well, and they're actually pretty interesting, and it really dictates what kind of kill team you might thought you were going to bring compared to what you're actually going to want to bring. So because I've had a chance to play about 3 or 4 games now. I did record 2 of those games. I just haven't had a chance to upload them to YouTube. I wanted to get this one out first. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and open the book and start going through this. And this will probably be a pretty long video because I am planning on covering quite a bit of the book. So it is thick. If you haven't seen this, it's a big book, and most of it is not fluff. Most of it is all rules. So getting started here, we'll flip through this. This is the table of contents if anybody was interested in taking a scrennshot for whatever reason. That's what we're going to be going over. It's a pretty big book, like I said. Introduction, we're going to skip that. We're going to skip the whole Shadow War thing. It's just talking about pretty much what Shadow War did, to be honest. Theaters of War. And that's about all the fluff there is. So, as you can see, not very much, which makes me pretty happy, to be honest. So, going into the rules. Now, the first part of this, I'm not going to really cover very much. This is just basically what you need to play a game, you know, dice, other things. Says you need a 22 by 30 area, but you may play on a 24 by 24 if you want to. And even bigger, doesn't really matter. So, but the standard size is 22 by 30. You need kill teams, and you need rules. Data sheets. These data sheets are pretty much exactly the same as 40K, so we're not going to go over the data sheets. Points, modifying characteristics, pretty much the same. Aura abilities work exactly the same. So we all know what that all means. So going on to the actual turn and I apologize, the phases of the game. So unlike 40K, each battle round starts with the initiative phase. And the initiative phase basically decides who's going to have initiative in each phase of the remaining turns. So what happens is you each roll 2d6, and whoever has the highest result has initiative for the game. So, and then whoever has initiative then goes to the movement phase, and what they do is they move all of their models at the same time. So it's not alternating like the rest of the game is. So the movement phase, you move all of your models, then it goes to your opponent, they move all of their models. If you're playing with 3 or 4 players, like I have tried as well, then they go to move their models, and so on and so on. And a bit of tactics, I think it's actually a lot better to have the second turn in this game. And that is because you can react with all of your models, because you know who's going to be readying in their team, you know who's going to be charging, running, advancing, where they're all going to be. If you can react to that, you can move guys out of line of fire. You can charge guys that they readied up to shoot. Different things like that. So I think it's a lot better to take second in this game, to be honest, in the initiative. So because nobody starts killing each other. Like, I don't get a chance to kill anybody before all your models do. It's all, you know, alternating activation. Now, movement on ruins is a little bit different than 40K. You can't move through walls, for example, like you can in 40K. You do have to measure all vertical distance, and that includes like a barricade. So if you're moving one guy up and then down a barricade, you need to count the up and down movement of that barricade and to keep going forward. So most of them are actually going to suck about 4 inches out of your movement. So you do need to keep that in mind. Models with fly are super important. Also why I think Harlequins are going to be probably one of the best factions that you can bring in this game. Once again, just like they were in Shadow War. So there's quite a bit to moving. You can make a normal move. You can fall back. If you fall back, you cannot overwatch, you cannot shoot, you cannot charge someone in close combat, obviously. You have to end your movement more than an inch away from any enemy models, and so on. Advancing is just like in 40k. You roll an extra d6, and you add that to your movement, but you can't shoot unless you have an assault weapon. If it's an assault weapon, it's -1 to hit. Readying up, this is different than 40k. If you decide not to move your guy, you can instead ready him up. And what that's going to do is, just like in 40k when you charge someone, anyone who charges first gets to fight first. This is the same for shooting. If you ready, then you get to shoot before any other models. And it's really important to ready a few guys, I think, every turn. So, continuing on, charging is no longer its own phase. It is done in the movement phase. You choose a target, the enemy reacts. Now, reacting in Kill Team is a little bit different as well. So you can either overwatch, which is exactly like 40k, or you can retreat. Now, retreating means that the guy who's getting charged, instead of overwatching, can move 3 inches away from the charging model. So that's pretty important as well. I think retreating is a much more viable option than Overwatch is a lot of times, because Overwatch you're only hitting on 6s, and then you have to wound, and then they have to fail their save, and then you might do a flesh wound to them at most. Whereas retreating, adding 3 inches to someone's charge is pretty detrimental. After the enemy has either overwatched or retreat, you then make your charge move. You have 2d6, just like 2d6 inches, just like 40k. However, if your model cannot finish its move within an inch of the other person, the model can move up to the charge distance they rolled. So let's say a guy's 6 inches away and you only roll a 3. You needed a 4 because you have to get within an inch of him, but you didn't make it. You might have used a command point, you still fell. You can still move that 3 or 4 inches that you rolled. You're not just stuck out in the open there. So that's quite a bit different from 40k as well. And it's honestly something I had hoped when 8th edition came out that they would have added to 40k. But it is what it is. So essentially that's the movement phase. After all the charges are completed, everybody's moved, everybody's ready, done whatever they're going to do. That's going to be the end of the movement phase. And then your opponent will go ahead and get to do the same exact thing. There are a few other little information bits here, but you guys can read through those if you want to screenshot that. So, continuing on, we then go to the Psychic phase. Now, there are only 2 models currently in the game that have Psychic, and no, they are not Eldars. So, you can see them right here. They are the Grey Knight Strike Squad guys and Thousand Suns Sorcerers. The only 2 models that have Psychic powers, and they both have the same Psychic power, Psybolt. Now, only 1 model per turn can cast a Psychic power, so even if you do have a full Grey Knight squad, only one of them will get to cast the Psychic power. The warp charge is 5 up, and it does a mortal wound. Now, as you'll see in the next video I'm going to post, it's the first game that I recorded in our Kill Team campaign. I had my Skitarii fighting against my friend Will's Thousand Suns, and his Sorcerer killed like half my freaking guys with this Psybolt. It is horrible. Man, it's just tough. You're in such close range. It doesn't matter if you guys have guys in close combat or not. He's just like, oh, I rolled 2d6, got a 5, and your guy's dead. Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. Now, he does still have to roll his damage, you know, to see if it's a flesh wound or the guy dies. But a lot of time people die, and it's really tough to counter because he's going to have a lot of guys in front of his sorcerer that you would have to get through. You can attempt to shoot them, and that's what I did, but I failed pretty much every time. So, essentially, you pick your psychic power. There's only one. You make your test. If you get a 5 or better, you're good. You can Perils of the Warp still. You take a mortal wound, or the Psyker suffers D3 mortal wounds, and if it kills him, then everybody within 3 suffers D3 mortal wounds as well. So that's the real downside to bringing a sorcerer, I think. You might want to keep him away 3 inches away from some of your other models. Deny the Witch. If you also have Psychers, then within 24 inches, you can attempt to deny the Witch, same as 40k. And then you do the Psychic power. Pretty simple there. The shooting phase, there's quite a bit to go through here. Essentially, it's the same exact thing as 40k, though. So if you're familiar with how to shoot in 40k, you're familiar with how to shoot in Kill Team. The real difference here is that instead of you shooting everybody in your army, you alternate one model by one model. So I first shoot with everybody that I've readied, as it says here. Not everybody, though. I pick a model that I've readied. I shoot with him, and then when he's finished, my opponent picks a model that he's readied and shoots with him, and it goes back and forth until all the readied models have shot. And then you go to what they call Fire at Will, once again alternating with all the people that have not shot but didn't charge or advance or fall back. And it's, like I said, just like 40k. The only real difference is that, as you can see here, if an enemy fails their saving throw, you will then inflict damage. So we'll go ahead and switch over to that part of this. Resolve attacks, wound roll, we all know that. Inflict damage. The damage inflicted is, or I guess that's not really different. That you just do the damage, but a model loses 1 wound for each point of damage it suffers. If a model's wounds are reduced to 0, any further attacks directed against this model by attacking weapon are not resolved, and then the player controlling the attacking model makes an injury roll for the target. So the injury roll is the different part. And we'll go ahead and take a little bit of time on this because it's pretty important in the game. So when a model's wounds are reduced to 0, the controlling player, unless stated otherwise, makes an injury roll for that model. To make an injury roll, the player rolls a d6 and applies the following modifiers. -1 for every injured model is obscured for the psyker, or shooting model, and within 1 inch of a model or piece of terrain that is between the 2 models, it's -1 to my roll. Each flesh wound on the injured model is +1, and then each close combat, same thing, each flesh wound is +1. So if you roll a 3 or less, the injured model takes another flesh wound. If you roll a 4 up, they're going to go out of action. So let's say he's shooting a guy, he wounds me, I fail my save, I've already taken a flesh wound. This now becomes a 3 up because you're adding 1 to that roll. So when a 3 or higher, my guy dies. But let's say the shooting model is obscured from me. So I've got terrain in the way. You -1, so then it might be a 5 up to kill the guy. Flesh wounds, you're going to get a lot of them on your guys throughout each game. They kind of pile up and they're really annoying because every flesh wound you have, you are -1 to hit. So if a model loses its last wound to an attack that has a damage characteristic of more than 1, the player whose model made the attack rolls a number of dice equal to that characteristic when making the injury roll rather than just 1, and applies the highest result. So that's another pretty important part. If I hit you with the melt-a-gun, let's say I'm a Harlequin player, I hit you with the melt-a-gun, you have no save, for example, I do 4 damage to you. I roll 4 dice on this injury roll thing to see if you die. You're probably going to die from one of those fusion pistols on a Harlequin guy. I'm just saying, it's almost guaranteed to happen, which is another reason why I think Harlequins are going to be a little bit OP in this game. So, anyways, you do get invertible saves still. There are still mortal wounds. You just don't get a save, and you go straight to an injury roll, essentially. Fight phase is going to be exactly the same as 40k as far as I can see. You fight with everybody who's charged first, then you alternate with the people that haven't charged. You pile in, you choose your target, you choose your melee weapon, the number of attacks, you resolve your attacks, and then you can consolidate up to 3 inches, and you must end closer to the nearest enemy model. So the only real difference here is that if there's intervening terrain, kind of like they're shown in this picture, you have a -1 to hit penalty in the fight phase because of the terrain in between you guys. Other than that, it's going to be pretty similar. So continuing on, the morale phase. This is almost the same. I mean, they're both called the morale phase, I think, in 40k. The difference here is how you test for morale. So, first of all, you have to check if your kill team is broken. If everybody in the kill team currently has a flesh wound or is shaken or are out of action, it is broken. Otherwise, if more than half of your models currently have flesh wounds, are shaken, or are out of action, it may be broken. You roll 2d6 if that characteristic is greater than the leadership of your best guy. Your kill team's broken. Once a kill team's broken, it stays that way for the rest of the game, and models in a kill team need to take nerve tests in each morale phase. In addition, they suffer a -1 penalty for everybody basically has a -1 to hit. So if you do need, in the morale phase, the more important part is you have to take a nerve test for each of your guys that has a flesh wound or is currently shaken. Each other friendly model that is shaken or is out of action is going to add 1 to your roll, and then each other friendly model other than shaken models within 2 inches of your guy is going to subtract 1. So let's say one of your guys takes a flesh wound. Let's say one of my Scutari Rangers takes a flesh wound, and 2 of his pals have already been killed, so they're out of action. Now, Scutari Ranger's leadership is 6, so I roll 1d6, as it says here. And then, yeah, so roll a d6, and I add 2 to that roll. So in this case, if I was rolled a 5 or a 6, that guy would become shaken, and he can no longer do anything for the rest of the phase. So they go through an example battle around here. I'm not going to go over that. Fighting a battle. So this is this is where something I didn't realize at first. Sorry, something I didn't realize at first for match play games, and I think it's actually really, really neat. It brings in a lot of tactical flexibility to every game that you're playing. So if you're going to go to a tournament in this, It's really cool. So first of all, when let's say you're playing a campaign or you're playing in a tournament. Let's take a look at a typical match play game tournament. What happens is you may or may not know the mission because it might be set by the tournament organizer, but let's say it's not set. You're going to roll for a mission. There are 4 matched play missions in here. When we get to them, they're somewhere in here, sorry. Yeah, so match play, or match narrative play, sorry. These are all narrative. Match play mission, match play mission, match play mission, and match play mission. Yeah. So you're going to roll for those. And then what's going to happen is once you figure out what mission you're playing, you and your opponent are then going to pick simultaneously a keyword from your roster. So that can be Imperium, it could be Chaos, it could be Skitarii, it could be Space Marine, whatever it may be. And then you'll simultaneously reveal those, and then you'll pick from your roster a 100-point kill team that matches, that has all have at least that keyword that you've chosen. So it's really interesting. What that means, though, is that your roster, for example, has up to 20 guys on it. You could put 10 Space Marine guys in there, like Reavers maybe, whatever you want to put. And then you could also put some Astra Militarum guys in there too, maybe even some Skitarii guys. And then you're going to pick a 100-point kill team from that after you know who you're playing and what mission you're playing. And that's really cool. So I could potentially have 3 different kill teams in one roster that I bring to a tournament. I'm hoping that's how they do it. If not, you know, a lot of tournament organizers may just say like, hey, bring your 100-point kill team, that's what you have. But in the match play mission rules, that's not how it works. You actually have a roster of 20 guys that you've pre-built, and you can pick from any of those guys. You can even mix things. So if you're playing Imperium, you could have a kill team that's got some Space Marine scouts, some Skitarii infiltrators, maybe some Astra Militarum guardsmen for cheap bodies. You know, they can all be in one kill team. The difference here is that if they don't, for example, if not everybody in your kill team is a Space Marine, you lose these Space Marine specific stratagems, and that's the downside. But you can mix and match it however you want. So as long as everybody has one keyword in common, you are still Battleforged. I'm going to go ahead and skip over a little bit of this. This is an open play mission, just covert, where it's basically just your standard open play mission, if that's what you want to do. I doubt many people will be doing that. There are some advanced rules. For example, difficult terrain, climbing, falling damage, barriers, jumping down, and things like that, along with some kill zone advanced rules. I highly doubt you'll ever actually see anybody using these, but they are available to you in a match play mission. Alright, so let's get into missions. There's a lot of different ways to play. I'm going to focus on match play because that's kind of what my channel's about. We're more of a narrative, a competitive focus here. So there are a lot of different things that you can do, though. But one thing that's pretty common with most of the missions is that you're going to have a scouting phase, and this is something that happens before the game starts. So what that means is each of you are going to get a D6, change the face of that D6 to one of these 6 options, and then hide that so your opponent doesn't know what you're picking. And then you're going to each at the same time place down your D6 with the face up that you chose and reveal them to each other. You have scout enemy forces, plant traps, disarm traps, scout out terrain, take forward positions, and eliminate sentries. So a lot of these do counter each other. So plant traps and disarm traps counter, take forward positions and eliminate sentries counter, scout out enemy forces and scout out terrain counter as well. Yeah, I'm not going to go through all these, but if you want to read those, feel free to pause the video and check them out. There you go. So I'm going to skip over the open play missions. I'm going to skip over the narrative missions, and we're going to go to the match play missions. So one other really cool thing is that every match play mission has rules for 3 to 4 players and the standard 2-player game. So they all work regardless, and you can have tournaments that are each 4-player free-for-alls in every game, and I think that's really cool, and I think it's something I'm going to try to do as well. So it should be pretty fun. We'll see. But first mission is going to be sweep and clear. The kill teams for 2 to 4 players, obviously. Once again, this is kind of what I was talking about here. So each player chooses a faction keyword, and the players reveal those choices at the same time. Then each player chooses a Battleforged kill team that only includes models with the faction keyword they chose. And that's out of your roster that you brought. You then create up the battlefield. You do the scouting phase. So like I said, most missions do involve the scouting phase. And then you deploy, and it's going to show you what your deployment is down here. Just about every match play game is going to be 4 rounds, and then variable length. So on a 3-up, it'll go to round 5, and then on a 4-up, it'll go to round 6. 6 is going to be the maximum number of rounds in game. Each mission is going to have its own victory conditions, and these are really going to determine what you bring in your game. So the first one here is basically you're just trying to control objectives. There are 4 objectives on the battlefield. You get 1 point for each one on your side. I think maybe 2 points for the ones in the middle, and 1 point for or 3 points for the one on the end, or just 3 points for every, and 1 victory point for each and every model taken out of action by the opponent's attacks or psychic powers. So okay, yeah. So this is your pretty standard game. So you get 3 points for every objective marker you control, and 1 point for every guy you've killed. Pretty easy. Take prisoners, on the other hand, a lot harder. You have to kill guys within 1 inch of you. That's the only way you can get victory points. And if your opponent has any enemy models within 2 inches of that guy you killed, you don't get the victory point. You're essentially capturing guys. It's quite hard. This is the mission that I've played a couple times now. It's difficult, especially for Scutari, who don't have a lot of great close combat options. You have Recover Intelligence. So once again, all pretty much the same thing, different deployments. Each player scores victory points for each objective marker their kill team controls. So once again, there are 4 objective markers in this. Each player scores 1 victory point for controlling each of the objective markers closest to their deployment, and 3 victory points if they control an objective marker in the center of the battlefield, and 2 for every other objective marker that they control. So pretty neat. It's just variable. You're trying to get across the battlefield with your guys, essentially. And then the last one, Terror Tactics. This one is if the battle ends because there is only 1 unbroken kill team on the battlefield, that kill team's player wins. Otherwise, each player scores 2 victory points for each of their models that have broken through the enemy lines. And what that means is you actually have to walk your guys from your deployment zone off the other battlefield edge. And that's quite difficult to do if you brought your gunline army. So I think with my Scutari, some of the best options are actually for just like an overall game is probably going to be like Sicarian Ruststalkers and Infiltrators, because they move really fast, they have 2 wounds a pop, and they have really good close combat options. So that allows them to compete in Terror Tactics, it allows them to compete in capturing objectives, and it allows them to compete and take prisoners where I need to kill guys in close combat. So I think that's probably your best option with the Scutari kill team. Sorry. So let's go ahead and start going over the kill teams. This is the meat of the book, to be honest, so bear with me a little bit. Sorry, having a drink. Alright, so choosing a kill team. Once again, we'll take a look at match play here. So for a match play game, you need to create a command roster of up to 20 models available to you, all of which must share a faction keyword. You'll then find a blank command roster on page 2, that's whatever. Write the details of each of your models in the spaces provided. Once the mission has been determined, you then choose a Battleforge kill team from the models on your command roster. So what is a Battleforge kill team? Well, your kill team must consist of at least 3 models and no more than 20 models. Your kill team must include 1 leader and only 1. Your kill team can include up to 3 other specialists. Your kill team cannot include more of the maximum of any particular model detailed on its datasheet. So essentially there's like how many you can take. All models must share a faction keyword, see page 18. And your kill team cannot cost more than 100 points. Each model and blah blah blah, everybody costs points. So, alright, so what is a faction keyword? I actually want to check this out. Page 18. Alright, keywords. So all datasheets have a list of keywords, sometimes separated into faction keywords and other keywords. The former can be used as a guide to help decide which models to include in your kill team, but otherwise, both sets of keywords are functionally the same. Sometimes a rule will say that it applies to models that have a specific keyword, for example, Adeptus Astartes. This means that it would only apply to models that have the Adeptus Astartes keyword on their datasheet. So essentially a faction keyword is going to be like Imperium Scutari, and then Infantry and Scutari Ranger are going to be other keywords. So I think that's pretty much it. Yep. So yeah, you can still mix and match an Imperium team if you wanted to. Continuing on, command points. There are 6 basic command points, or stratagems that everybody can use. You get 1 command point for every turn of the game. You get 1 command point for a battle-forged army. So I think so anyways. See, all Battleforge kill teams generate 1 command point at the beginning of each round. In addition, at the start of the first battle round, your kill team generates 1 additional command point for each 10-point difference between your kill team's force and that of the kill team with the highest force. You spend command points on tactics, essentially. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, most of the time you're getting 2 command points per turn because your leader is going to generate you 1. So as long as he's alive, you'll get a kill point. So the stratagems that are available to everybody are Decisive Move. Use this tactic at the start of the movement phase and pick a model from your kill team and make a move with it before any other models. It's pretty useful. Decisive Strike. You can use this tactic at the start of the fight phase and choose someone to fight before anybody else. Decisive Shot, same exact thing. You can shoot it before anybody else. Insane Bravery. You can automatically pass a nerve test. That can be pretty important. Tactical Reroll. You can reroll a single advance roll, charge roll, psychic test, deny the witch test, hit roll, wound roll, save and throw, injury roll, or nerve test. And when they say the roll, like for example a charge roll, you do not roll 1 dice, you reroll the entire thing. So you'd reroll both 2d6 if you decided to use that. And then last but not least, Gritted Teeth. Use this tactic when you choose a model with 1 or more flesh wounds to shoot in the shooting phase or fight in the fight phase. They do not suffer any penalty for the flesh wounds that they have on them. So that can be pretty helpful as well. Alright, specialists. These are pretty important. There's a lot of them. You can have up to 3 specialists in addition to your leader in your army. Everybody's going to have a leader, though. If you are using games that have level 2 or higher specialists, you have to add 4, 8, and 12 points respectively to your roster if you want to bring those guys. So, alright, leader specialists. Everybody's got a passive ability. As long as this model is not on the battlefield and not shaken, you gain an additional command point at the beginning of each battle round. So pretty important to keep him alive. You can also use his level 1 tactic in match play games. Pick a leader, choose a guy within 3 inches of your leader. You can fight with each of these models in an order of your choice before the next player's turn. So that can be pretty helpful. Combat specialists, these guys are going to add 1 to their attacks characteristics in the fight phase, essentially. I'll let you read through these stratagems if you want to pause this. Comm specialists, these guys are going to, once per shooting phase, when you pick a model from your kill team to shoot that is within 6 inches of your comms guy, and he's not shaken, you can add 1 to their hit rolls. So pretty helpful to have a comms guy around. Demolition specialists, you can add 1 to wound rolls against targets that are obscured. It's pretty good. Heavy specialists, you don't suffer the -1 for moving. Medic specialist, this model is never treated as being shaken when taking nerve tests for other models in your kill team. Scout specialists, you can reroll advanced rolls for this model. Sniper specialists, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for this model when it makes a shooting attack. I definitely have one of these guys in my army with a big transonic arquebus. Veteran specialist, this model ignores the penalties to leadership in nerve tests. And then a zealot, you can add 1 to this model's attacks and strength characteristics in a battle round in which they charged, so pretty helpful as well. And that is basically all of your specialists that you can choose. Once again, if you guys wanted to pause and look at these, go right ahead. I just don't really feel like reading through all these stratagems, to be honest with you. Last but not least, comms and demolitions. Alright, so let's go ahead and start taking a look at the kill teams. Adeptus Astartes. I'm going to skip through all the fluff on each of these. It's nice to have, but you do have some Adeptus Astartes specific stratagems. You can pause those if you want to look at them. You have Scouts, you have Tactical Marines, Reavers, and Intercessors. They are almost exactly the same as they are in 40k. And they shall know no fear means they can reroll nerve tests. And then Transhuman Physiology, ignore the penalty to models hit rolls that they have suffered from 1 flesh wound. And then Camo Cloaks give you a -1 modifier to hit on these guys. Everybody in this book has And They Shall Know No Fear and Transhuman Physiology for Space Marines. The Intercessors have some grenade launchers. The Reavers are really good because I think they ignore model with grab shoot ignores falling damage. He ignores vertical distance, which is nice. These guys are probably what you really want to be bringing in a competitive kill team, I would think, just because they're bolters. They have better bolters than a tactical marine. They have 2 wounds. And they have some close combat options and unique close combat options, to be honest with you. Alright, they have a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff that costs points, so if you guys want to pause this, you can see your Intercessor's 15 points, a Reaver's 16, a Scout's 10, and a Tactical Marine's 12. Most of their guns are 0 or very cheap, and that's going to be the same throughout all of these kill teams. So you can see pretty much all these are exactly the same as 40k. So continuing on, Deathwatch. Deathwatch still have their special ammunition. So you can add 1 to your hit rolls when they're obscured, always wound on a 2+, add 3 inches to the range, subtract 2 inches of the range, but make it AP3 or AP2. Pretty good. Deathwatch are probably going to be better than your average kill team, but they are a little bit more expensive. So you only have one option, Deathwatch Veteran, but he can take a ton of stuff. So if you haven't seen it already, there is all the different things that you can take with your Deathwatch Veteran, and the points. A regular Deathwatch Veteran's 14 points. If you take a Black Shield or a Watch Sergeant or a Gunner, they're 16 points. And so on. Pretty good. Alright. Grey Knights only have one option. It is going to be this guy, a Grey Knight. But they all are Psychers, and Psychers are really good in this game. One thing I don't understand, and maybe I'm just missing it, Demon Hunters. If a model attacks any demons in the fight phase, you can reroll failed wounds. I don't see any demons in this book, so maybe I'm just missing them. Once again, same for their Rite of Banishment. They get D3 mortal wounds against demons. I still don't know what's a demon in this book, so maybe it's something with Death Guard or Thousand Suns. Not too sure. But a regular Grey Knight's 18 bucks. Justice Car's 19, Gunner's 19, so pretty expensive. But their guns are really cheap, and they do have a lot of options. So, Astra Militarum. These are the really cheap guys. More fluff, sorry. Essentially, you have your infantry guardsmen, and then you have a special weapons squad. So, special weapons squad can basically be a flamer, grenade launcher, melt-gun, plasma gun, or a sniper rifle, or a special weapons gunner, sorry. And then you have your regular infantry gunners. They do have orders, so the orders are pretty similar to 40k. Move, 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 fix bayonets, blah, blah, blah. Bring it down, take aim. All the pretty standard stuff. You can take Militarum Tempestus Scions, so if you want a little bit better firepower. They obviously have quite a few guns available to them in this skill team. Your regular guardsman is a whole 5 points, so nice and cheap. Scions 9 points. Special weapon guys 5 points. And all their guns are really cheap, so there you go. Adeptus Mechanicus. I'm going to go ahead and skip over AdMech for the most part because most people, I think, have already seen this. You do get Canicles. Canicles can be pretty good, especially Shroud Psalm. Gives you another -1 to hit. Super helpful. Stratagems are pretty much straight out of the book. You do have 4 options. You have Rangers, Vanguard, Ruststalkers, and Infiltrators. I think Ruststalkers and Infiltrators are probably your better option, but I could be wrong. You guys are a little expensive, though, in my opinion. So 14 for Infiltrators, 14 for Ruststalkers, 9 and 9 for the Vanguard and Rangers. Guns are all pretty cheap. Most of them 0, except for a few different things. Your sniper's only 5 points, so I recommend taking them. Power Sword, 0, actually. So, yeah, pretty simple. And almost all these guns do exactly the same thing as they do in 40k. There are some range changes, though, like the sniper's only 60. Heretic Astartes. These guys should be fun. You can take Cultists and you can take Space Marines. So here's your Chaos Cultists. All exactly the same. They can take a Mark of Chaos. You can choose it to replace one of the following keywords: Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, or Slaanesh. I don't know what it does yet, but sorry about that, guys. I had to take a little break there. Nose was getting pretty clogged up. I'm sure you can hear it, but anyways, continuing on. Chaos Space Marines have Death to the False Emperor. If you make a hit roll of a 6, you get to make another attack. They also have the Mark of Chaos. You can take Leaders, Heavy Guys, Demolition, Snipers, Veterans, and Zealots. If you have some of these, I think it's an icon, so I guess this would be maybe your, I don't know who would take the icon, I guess. Let's see, you can take a Chainsword, one Chaos Space Marine in your kill team. Oh, one of your Chaos Space Marines can take a Chaos Icon. Okay. So if you have a Khorne Icon, you can reroll failed charge rolls with for all models within 6 inches. If you have Tzeentch, at the start of your turn in the Psychic phase, roll a d6 for each model in your kill team equipped with an Icon of Flame. On a 6, it inflicts 1 mortal wound to the closest enemy model within 12. That's pretty good. Nurgle, subtract 1 from the leadership characteristics of enemy models within 6 inches. Slaanesh, Death to the False Emperor ability of any models within 6 is changed to a 5-up rather than a 6-up. I think that's pretty good. And then if you don't take a Mark of Chaos, you can take the Icon of Vengeance, and that's add 1 to the leadership of all models within 6 inches of the Icon of Vengeance. So those can be pretty good. But once again, this doesn't give anybody a demon keyword, so still no demons. Anyways, points. Cultist is a whole 4 points. Chaos Space Marine is 12, so pretty cheap for the most part. Your icons all have different costs to them. For example, that Icon of Excess is more expensive than the rest of them at 5 points. Most of your guns are pretty cheap though, so continuing on. Alright, Death Guard. Woo! Decided not to throw this in with your regular Chaos Space Marines, so you can take Plague Marines and Poxwalkers. Plague Marines come in at 14 points, and a Poxwalker is a whole 3 points. So you can take a lot of these guys. Once again, they have Death to the False Emperor. They do have Disgustingly Resilient, so on a 5-up, he doesn't lose a wound. And you can take an Icon of Despair, which is the same as the Chaos Space Marine one there. Poxwalkers, same thing, on a 5-up, they don't take a wound. They've got 1 wound, Strength and Toughness 3. Not a lot going on there. Let's see, yeah, nobody with a demon keyword still that I can see. So I'm not sure where these demons are coming from. Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, here's all your points, costs, and weapons that they can take. Yep. I think these would be a pretty good team just because you can flood the board with a lot of guys. Thousand Suns. You'll see these guys in the video that I post next. You can take Rubric Marines and Zangors. You can take one of your Rubric Marines can be an Aspiring Sorcerer. You can have a max of one of those, and you can have a Rubric Marine Gunner max of one of those as well. Your Aspiring Sorcerer knows your Cybolt power. It's pretty freaking good. So all these guys have a 5-up invul, which is really nice. No demon keywords still, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. I don't know who these Grey Knights are fighting or what they're getting bonuses against, but it's not these dudes. So pretty much your Rubric Marines have the same rule from 40k, all is dust, so they're going to 2-up save a lot of the time. And Zangors are, I mean, they are what they are. They're a 5-up invul guy. They're usually getting 2 attacks because they have claws and things like that. And they can add 1 to their advanced rolls if you take a Bayhorn. But Rubric Marines 16 points. Zangor is a whole 7 points, so they're kind of expensive. You don't get a lot of guys with this army. Good old Eldar, Asuryani, or I don't know, Asuryani, Eldar. Which one is it these days? Who knows? Surprisingly, Eldar do not have any Psychers. So here are your tactics that you can use. And here's 2 of the guys you can bring, Guardian Defenders and Storm Guardians. They're pretty much exactly like they are in 40k. They have the Ancient Doom model. So if somebody's done enough to give all their guys Slaanesh and they end up going against Eldar, well, yeah, I don't know. So the one thing I do think is pretty cool about the Guardian Defenders in this game is that you can still take a heavy weapons platform. So a heavy weapon platform can bring a missile launcher, bright lance, scatter laser, or star cannon. I think that's pretty powerful as long as you can actually hit guys. So you just have to have one guy within 3 inches of it, and you can use him to fire it instead of shooting himself. You can also bring Rangers and Dire Avengers. I think Dire Avengers is probably where it's at. But the Rangers are pretty good if you give them the cloaks. You know, when an enemy player makes a hit roll in the shooting phase, it's an additional -1 modifier if you're obscured. That's pretty good. So a lot of these guys will have 7-inch movement, just like 40k. These are all the different weapon profiles that you can bring. Let me get the other page there so you can see what you can actually bring on these guys. If you want to pause that. Okay. Points for these guys, Dire Avengers are going to be 10 points, Guardians are 7, Rangers are 11, and a Storm Guardian is 6 if you want to take the close combat version of them. And then there's the points for all their weapons. So, keep going. Dark Eldar, woo! Fluff, 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 fluff. Kill teams. They do have Power from Pain and Combat Drugs, so I don't know if these are the same as 40k or not, but that's what they are. You have some tactics here. You can take two different things, the Cabalite Warrior and the Witch. I think all of their options are pretty much similar to what 40k is. I'm not super familiar with what these guys can bring normally, but if you want to take a look at what the points are, Warriors are 7, Witches are 8, so you can get a lot of these guys in your kill team. It looks like you can still bring Dark Lances and everything like that, and they're pretty cheap, so I'm sure we'll see a lot of them. Harlequins. Now, Harlequins are my pick for best kill team in this game. I have gone through a lot of them, and there's a couple of reasons why I think Harlequins are the best, and that's because this game is heavily based on Shadow War Armageddon. And Shadow War Armageddon was played on a much bigger field, a 4x4 typically, and Harlequins were completely overpowered in Shadow War because they can move so fast, they ignore all of the rules, they have the best guns in the game, and they just, oh man, they're minus to hit all the time, they have 4-up invulns, and they murder everybody. So now that you're playing on a lot smaller battlefield where people can potentially charge you turn 1, especially with Harlequins because they can declare and charge within 18 inches since they get 3d6, it's going to be rough. So we'll take a look though. I kind of want to go through these guys a little bit more in depth than the rest of them. I do not own any Harlequins. I do not have a Harlequin kill team, but maybe. We'll see. Just like in 40k, you can do Prismatic Blur and get a 3-up invul. You can give a guy an extra 6 inches to their movement instead of rolling on an advanced roll. Fire and Fade, just like Eldar, they can immediately make a normal move up to 7 as if it were the moving phase after that model is shot in the shooting phase. Segarak's Jest, use this tactic after an enemy model has fallen back from a model in your kill team. Provided no other enemy models are within 1 inch of you, you can shoot it as it falls back. That's pretty mean. War Dancers, this tactic at the end of the fight phase, pick a model from your kill team that's already fought and fight again. That's pretty mean. And use this Mirthless Hatred. You can reroll failed hit rolls and rune rolls against Slanesh models if you want to. So you only have one option. You have the player. The player's got all the same options as he does in 40k, and they can be just about most of the specialists here. They all have a 4-up invul. They all have a flip belt, so they can move across other models and terrain as if they were not there. Super important. And then Rising Crescendo. You may roll 3d6 instead of 2d6 for this model when making a charge roll, and you can declare any model within 18 inches as a target rather than 12 inches. So just ignore all the rules of the game. So your regular player is only 12 freaking points, and a fusion pistol is only 3, which makes them, with a Harlequin's Caress, another 3, that makes them 18 points a model if you take a Caress and a fusion pistol, which is probably what you want, to be honest, because that's going to give you +2 strength and -2 AP, which kills most things in this game. 15 points a guy means you're bringing like 6 or 7 of them, and that's about all I have in my Skitarii kill team, so I feel like I just ought to lose. But we'll see. Well, you know, I foresee that there's going to be a lot of tournaments coming up, and we'll see if these guys actually do as well as I think they're going to do. But that's my pick for best kill team in the book. Necrons. I'm not very familiar with Necrons, but we can go through their. Here's all of their tactics that you can do. So if you want to pause that and look through them. You do have a couple options. You have Necron Warriors, Immortals, Flayed Ones, and Deathmarks. I think none of these guys really have options for guns, so they're just going to be, other than like the Immortals with Tesla carbines. So they're going to be pretty standard stuff out of the box. Your regular Deathmark is 15 freaking points. Flayed One's 10, Immortals 16, and a Necron Warrior is 12. Do you see the problem here? A Necron Warrior is the same amount of points as a Harlequin player. And a Harlequin player has 4 attacks, moves 8 inches, has better weapons. I mean, all the guns are 0, but man, I don't know. You tell me. Orcs. Orcs are pretty funny. Here's your orc tactics. You can once again pause those if you want to look through that. You got a lot of options. So you have orc boys, Gretchens, commandos, Burna boys, and Ludas. You can make a Gretchen a leader, which means you can bring an entire army of Gretchen. So that's pretty fun. Although I don't think you really can because it wouldn't fill up the 100 points. So you could, but you'd be down on points and you get some extra command points, I guess. But if you want to look through what these are, I think they're just straight out of the 40K book for the most part. You can pause that. Pause. Pause. All right. These are all their weapons. Pretty standard, I think. And then points. Burna Boys 12. Gretchens are 3 points a pop. Commandos 8. Ludas 12. And Orc Boys 6. You do have boss knobs and gunners and other things like that. And there's all their ranged and melee weapon points. Most of them are 0, as a lot of these kill teams are. Alright, Tau. Tau have some good options. This is another team I think that's going to do quite well. They do still get their marker lights. Uplink marker light is pretty much the same as it is in 40K. Recon Steep, you can move somebody up to 2d6. Stimulant Interjector basically gives you a feel no pain on a drone, and so on. But they've got Fire Warriors, they've got Pathfinders, Fire Warrior Breachers, and XV-25 battlesuits, and drones. And as you can see, a lot of these things have a lot of rules, and I'm not going to go over them all, so I'm sorry. But if you want to pause, I think that's a pretty good picture of what you can get there. Stealth suits are going to be super good, because they're really, really hard to hit. So, drones, there's all the different kinds of drones that you can take. Tau definitely have the most options of any army in this book. So if you want to make a really varied team, these are the way to go. So there's all your guns there. And then points for Tau are here. God, they have weird names that I've never actually seen before, sorry. You guys are kind of expensive though, so a stealth dude's 20 points. But there's your weapons as well. Anyways, continuing on. Tyranids, I think Tyranids is super fun. I'd love to make a warrior team. So these are your tactics that you can bring. Sorry, I'm trying to, there we go. If you want to pause ahead and look through there. Here's Termagants and Hormagaunts, super cheap. Lictors, which are going to be probably really good. So they're another -1 to hit, which is nice. And they've got a lot of attacks and do a lot of stuff, especially that 9-inch movement there, as you see. Really good. Tyranid Warriors obviously are good. They bring Synapse and Shadow of the Warp. So you get to subtract 1 from people that are Psychers, so that's really helpful. And then Gene Stealers. Their extended carapace is 0 points, by the way, so you can get a better save if you want. And then here's all the information for your weapons. Gene Stealers are 11 points. Hormagaunts and Termagants are only 4. A Lictor's 25, making him, I think, the most expensive model in the game. I could be wrong, but I think he is. And a Tyranid Warrior is 20, so a pretty elite force if you want to go big guys. And then there's all your weapons and war gear. Gene Stealer Colts. You can bring some special guys in here from Tyranids, I think. Yeah, you can take Pure Stain Gene Stealer. So when you add a Gene Stealer from page 179 to your command roster and create a stated card, you can choose for it to have the Gene Stealer Colt faction instead of the Tyranid faction. So you basically just take the exact same thing from over there and bring it into these guys. And then I'm not going to go over these guys a lot once again because most people have seen a lot of what these guys can do. So Acolyte hybrids, Neophyte hybrids, hybrid metaphors, and aberrants are what you can bring. And all the guns and fun stuff that go along with those. Once again, here's all your weapons. Try to get a good shot for you. Okay. And then points for everybody. Your aberrants are 15, acolytes are 7, hybrid metaphors are 8, and the neophytes are 5. Those are your cheap, basically, guardsmen. A lot of your guns, once again, like most, are 0. And then there's your melee weapons. and cult icons. Cult icons are pretty important. You probably want one in your army. So those are all the kill teams. The rest of this is just going to be talking about how to paint some guys, maybe some options. Campaigns. Campaigns are pretty simple. We are running one, so I'm going to leave this for other videos, as we've already talked a lot about this in the couple videos that I've filmed. So you can basically, if you want, I know it's kind of hard to see in here, but if you're trying to run a campaign or get that set up and you want to take a screenshot of this, go right ahead. I'll bring back the other page too. Okay. And then that's pretty much it, guys. So there's a little bit of a reference on the back here, and that is the book. So it is a lot. Obviously, I did not go through everything in like high detail here, but I'm hoping you could at least take what you need from the book, from this video, if you haven't got it already, and kind of make what you want and get ready for next Saturday when this comes out. Let me know, what questions do you guys have? I can probably answer some for you in the comments if you have any. What kill teams are you planning to bring? What do you think is going to be the best option? Once again, my vote is Harlequins. I'm going to play my Scutari because that's what I have, but I think the best guys are going to be Harlequins, or maybe people with Psychers, so like Grey Knights and Thousand Sons, because they have a lot of options. Grey Knights specifically, but they're expensive. They're a lot more expensive than a Harlequin player. So thanks for watching, guys. I know this was a long video, but I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.